Hey y'all, it's Krypton Critics. I'm here to review the 2017 movie Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, directed by Luc Besson. It was also written by him. It stars Dane DeHaan as Valerian. Laura Lane's played by Cara Delevingne. Commander Flint is played by Clive Owen. Bubble is played by the singer Rihanna. Jolly the Pimp is played by Ethan Hawke. And Princess Lilo Mina is played by the Eastern European model Sasha Lewis. Now, I did not see the movie in the theater. I thought it looked interesting. I thought the visual effects were very impressive when I saw the trailer, but I didn't feel like much grasp of like actually sitting down in the theater. But I did know that this is based off a long-running French comic book series, and this series had a lot of influence just in the not only in the comic book industry, but in science fiction just in general. I mean, heavy influence on George Lucas when he came out with Star Wars movies. There's like in many science fiction, there's like a vaguely hamburger shaped ship, but in the French series there was a dude that was evil. He wore like a black suit of armor and he was covering his disfigured face, and I think there was like some connection to him, some lineage. The female character, Laureline, much like Princess Leia, was in a bronze bikini, kept by slave holders on a planet, sand planet that has two suns that you can see in the sky. In hell, Valerian was put into amber. It's just a slab of brown amber with his hands up like this. So, definitely a lot of influence. I mean, heck, there's these like little guys called the Dugan Dogus, and they look quite a bit like Watto from the Phantom Menace. I kind of like them. I mean, when I first saw those three little guys with weird wings and the trunkish snouts, I thought I was gonna just find them like not only repulsive, because they look weird, but I thought I was just gonna find them completely annoying. But after a while, I'm like, okay, they're not bad. There's a lot of jokes in this movie, but none of them made me laugh out loud. I mean, there was a few ones that I thought, okay, that was decent, but it's not strong enough to make me come up with a hearty chuckle at all. It's just like, okay, I acknowledge what you did there. That's that should be more to the side of the place of better jokes that really like help develop the characters or really set up the plot, because the plot of this movie is a little over the place. Now, things that they do introduce are brought back, like there's technology of where you can be simultaneously in our dimension and in another one, but you view it as kind of like a hologram or like a video game simulation. Like Valerian and Laureline go to this one planet with like cotton candy colored like clouds and shit, and it's like this bizarre like black market, and there's like a lot of tourists there. I'm gonna be honest, all the tourists I did not like. I thought they were all annoying. Valerian's there, and he's trying to like Valerian, Laureline, and like a few people that they bumped into the riding a bus, on a road trip to perform a heist to try to get these pearls that came from this planet called Mole. And Mole used to be inhabited by these like very pale, humanish fish people. I mean, like they have the body of people, but they're pretty. They're pretty white as paper. They also have like. They also have like some effect of like, like the sparkle fish, like in their skin. And like they run on a monarchy, and we learn more about how they were oppressed and how their planet was destroyed in a battle, and they've been like behind in the shadows for hundreds of years, and now they're like trying to get their own vessel so they can put their own dimension and make it just like how home was, with all the oysters, giant oysters and clams and shit, and very beautiful like sunsets against mostly a world of just water and ocean and all that shit. And also these weird kind of like little baby porcupine things that like I guess they crap out pearls, and these pearls have like serious power. It's odd. There's a lot of sci-fi oddness that really hasn't been done, especially in big blockbuster movies. Now this movie did horrible in its theatrical run, and it was met with mixed reviews, and I can totally understand that. And the score was done by Alexandra Desplat, very big name in film scores. But I can understand why some people really enjoy this movie and some people outright hate it, because I think the biggest problem about this movie is the connection between our two main leads, which are Valerian and Laureline now, which is the title of the original comic book. I don't know why they decided to put in a city of 1,000 planets and not just make it Valerian and Laureline. Dane DeHaan says her name very weird. But I never quite felt that they were a couple. I never completely understood or felt like the emotion of why he would go out of his way to be with this one chick. Now, like when we first like bump into them, like the soul of that one princess from Yule is like connected to him, so maybe some piece of her printed to him, something encrypted. And like they do some sunbathing jujitsu or some shit, and she talks about how he's like a man whore and like well all these bitches, and he's like, oh no babe, you're the only one for me, okay, I moved on, all right. Gosh. Yeah, they're both in the military. One's major, I think. One's the captain, and they're supposed to sell these two as like really badass military fighters, and that's another thing that I do not feel. I mean, they say it, and they say they love each other, but I never really quite feel it. There were some moments, like, and I'm not knocking anything against the actors, because I know that they've done really good work, and especially I've seen some really impressive work from Dane DeHaan. I was a big fan of him in that one movie where he gets superpowers, and I was a big fan of him in Lawless, where he just played like a backwoods drunk hillbilly. He completely transformed for that role, definitely. And The basic thing is, like they had to uncover the plight of the people from Mule, and like Laura Lane has to find Valerian, and she gets in like a submarine with this dude named Bob. I did like Bob, but you know, it was mostly just by like the actor like brought in the personality. I liked Jolly the pimp. He's like made sure that Valerian can get a pole dance from Bubble, and when I heard her name, I'm like, that's why Bubble? Like we couldn't find a better stripper name than Bubble. But that's whatever. I mean, in hindsight, it doesn't really mean anything. Maybe it was just a presentation how they brought it out. And like this like this weird jellyfish they put on Laura Lean's head, and now she can like see what's going on, and she finds her boy like crashed. They were like hunting down like this one ship and all that, and like there's butterflies everywhere, and these like these little reptiles that get the butterflies, and you have these big ass dudes called the Bolon Bathors that are just like hunting down with fishing rods, and they capture Laura Lean because of course, and like one of them like I mean they don't understand any English, and one of them like tries to force her to like put on dresses. I was kind of surprised that they did not like introduce any of like the bronze bikinis from the comics. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do that or kind of allude to it. Now, back to Dane DeHaan as Valerian and Bubble about Rihanna. Like she does a pole dance says something to behold. I had never known I would see Rihanna morphing into different outfits and then turning into a blue blob alien, and then turning into a even bigger blob guy, and why not? And especially with the runtime, and especially like all the things they try to tackle, and all the ambition. The ambition is definitely there, but I kind of get the impression Luc Besson, who had done Fifth Element, I've reviewed that movie on this channel before, and I gave that one a C+ because I had problems with the story, and there was a lot of things in it, like side characters that would try to make a joke I just didn't find funny. I felt very much the same watching this movie. There was a lot of things that I felt like that is exactly how it was. Like there's this guy named Egon, and he's like this big dude, and he's like brutish, and he like threatens to shoot everybody. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that's just like those weird aliens that worked with Gary Oldman in Fifth Element. Like it felt exactly like it. And there was like tourists in both movies. Like one was like on a plane, and these ones are in this black market bazaar. And just like part of it, I felt like I was watching the same movie, just like with a much bigger budget, because I feel bad for the animators that work on this, because it is ludicrous of how much they put into this. Like I kept watching this movie, I was thinking to myself, I admire the technical work. I cannot stress this enough, but with the style and all the things they've done, and also considering in hindsight of how much money that they lost in making this movie, I thought it would have been a better idea to make this a animated feature. Now, this is not to assume like anime feature, you're probably thinking like Pixar or DreamWorks. Not everything has to be like that, like one just like big aspect of like animation that Americans, are more becoming accustomed to. It's like anime, where you can have like the kid shit, you can have things for like uh, you know young men and women, and you have shit that's more geared to adults, and you have like everything in between, and you have all different kinds of genres. It doesn't have to be like this is kid shit, or this is like Seth MacFarlane cartoons where it goes a little far from for many people, or something like Metalocalypse where it has to be like, oh, this is most extreme thing that we can think of. Um, Speaking of Metalocalypse, rest in peace to John Schnepp. Anyway, but so like Bubble dies, and I don't feel like that they needed to kill her there. Like the reasoning that she dies, like, oh, some shit fell on her, and she's a blue blob thing, and previously Lauren Lee was almost eaten by these big brutish guys. I'm just like I'm not feeling that. There are decent moments that I do like. There are parts where there are small sides between different characters. Just very almost unspoken like connections. I'm like, okay, I can see what you're doing there. But overall, like, if you kill like Bubble and I don't give like a flying fuck, and you like spend so much time on her death, I'm like, that's not a good sign. And like all like we learn how oppressive like this big military installation that the two characters are working for, and previously like there was like two of the members of the mole tribe, and they had like these weird glue guns that would like suffocate people, and Valerian has like a little robot so you can be able to cut it open. I'm gonna be honest, I mean, the glue gun kind of looked like they were shooting bust on them. That's just what I saw. Anyway, but as we move on to the story, and like the pearl that he keeps, and after all this shit happens, and happily ever after for the moles, and fuck you to the system, and the military installation that, even though they did this shitty thing, probably like staging mutiny is like probably not the best course of action. Probably performing it and like learning from the mistakes is probably a better idea. But like I felt kind of empty, and I felt like, oh, come on, when like they were trying to set up like the two main characters were like trying to get married, and like Valerian really wanted it, but he doesn't know shit about marriage really. He doesn't even know the honeymoon takes place after the wedding, and he like uses the pearl that they got, and and he's like, oh, you want to be with me? And she's like, maybe. So I know like we should do a certain amount of separating the art from the artist. Luc Besson, had done Fifth Element. I've seen Taken, and so far out of the three movies I've seen, Taken is definitely my favorite. But considering like comments that Luc Besson made while this movie is being released, saying that why would you settle for a film like Avengers that just settles for the lowest common denominator, kind of makes me think that since he wrote this and directed it, and made these comments, I think to myself, I'm like, Luc Besson probably has his head up his ass. Now, people that have had their heads up their ass have made up great product, but when it becomes adherence to the art you're making, and like that's feel like all you can do, and put the story on the back burner of that, that's a problem. So overall, I'll give this movie a C. I like it less than Fifth Element, but not by much. So tell me what y'all think. It's by the Krypton Critics. You know I love you.